Welcome back. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for reminding my ex I'm only responsible for our children and not all of his kids? My ex-husband, 40 male, and I, 35 female, have 2 children together, 12 and 11 male. We divorced about 10 years ago now because I feel like he regressed as a husband and a father during my second pregnancy, and he was even worse when our younger son was born. He was acting like a high school or college kid or a single 20-something with no kids. He spent more time with friends than with us. His friends were also treating me more like his mom and expecting me to pick him up from their houses when they needed to get on with stuff. He fought for 50% custody of our kids, which he wasn't given, and for the first 2 or 3 years, he had every other weekend and a 2-week period during the summer with them, as well as alternating holidays. He started being more involved and eventually he did get 50% custody. It was at that time I found out he got some woman pregnant and he realized with 3 kids he needed to get his act together. He ended up with full custody of his 3rd child. Then he met his wife. They have 2 more children together now. There are 2 kids in her life, but I don't believe they're her biological children anyways, who she is also partially supporting. Those 2 kids don't live with them, but apparently they pay for stuff for this child. My ex and I started getting along better, but then his marriage was rocky. As his marriage worsened, he started treating me like a co-parent to all his kids. He would bring his other children to custody exchanges and expecting interactions between me and his other children. Then it was requests to babysit for him and his wife, which I never did. Then it was comments about our boys' old clothes at my house being sent to his house for his other kids, and how we needed to make sure they had adequate clothing. I told him there was no we in that. And he said, of course there is, we're co-parents. I said, of our 2, sure, but not his other kids. It was requests for me to have his children in my home or to take them out to eat with me and our kids. And finally it has turned into back to school craziness. I bought supplies for the boys and he told me I hadn't bought nearly enough for everyone. I was like, hold up. What's that supposed to mean? And he pointed out that what I bought wouldn't be possible to share evenly between all 5 children. I told him we don't have 5 children, we have 2. The 2 I bought those for. I told him I'm responsible for our children, not his 3 others. I told him he has a wife, they share 2 of those children and the other is in their home, so it's up to them. He told me that I know they don't have a lot of money and I cut him off and told him that still didn't make his children my problem. He said I can't possibly take care of just 2 of them, not when we're co-parenting and all 5 kids live together 50% of the time. He said I should be a part of the community to help raise these kids, and keeping my distance like I do is so dang cold. Am I the a-hole? You're not the a-hole, OP. Your ex-husband is being entitled and unreasonable. Just because you co-parent your kids with him doesn't mean you have to co-parent all his children with him. You don't have to be a part of the community to help raise these kids because they're not yours. Your husband feeling entitled enough to ask you to babysit and act like a parent to them is silly. I'm glad you turned him down and put him in his place. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole, obviously. I'm curious to know how your boys find it at his house. With his entitled attitude, he is clearly a shitty role model. I'm sure it won't be long until the kids wise up and want to stay with you full time. They're nearly at the age where most places will take their choices as a major deciding factor. Not the a-hole. He keeps using the term co-parenting quite liberally. I don't think it means what he thinks it means, to be honest. You are co-parenting with him with your 2 kids. He seems to think any kid he is responsible for is whom you are co-parenting. You're not crazy, you're not wrong. You're not selfish or uncaring or whatever nonsense words he is throwing at you right now. He is desperately trying to manipulate you into joining his circus. But they are not your monkeys, not your circus. What is he thinking here? What happens when your boys get older and start having more expensive things? When they start driving? Are you supposed to buy his kids a car too? He's out of his mind. You're not part of his village, and the sooner you drill this into his thick skull, the better. Make sure you keep track of your son's belongings or they will end up being given to the other kids. Save receipts, label clothes, keep electronics at your house, etc. You have about 7 more years of this crap. I'm sorry for you. Make sure your kids know that their stuff is theirs and they are absolutely okay with not having to share or give away their things. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for breaking a couple by telling them what they really think of each other? I'm on the debate team. My partner and I are planning to run for co-captains of policy next year. One type of debate. My partner, let's call him Tim, is honestly the better debater out of the two of us. But I'm a better writer, and more importantly in this case, better at politics. Well, as much as a high schooler can be. I anticipate our main competition is a team, which also happens to be a couple, James and Mary. The main reason I worry about them is because they are from 2 different social groups with different friends. Here's what I mean. My partner and I, we were friends before high school, and therefore debate even started. Our friend group is the same. On the other hand, James and Mary come from 2 different cliques. James is popular in and out of debate, confident, and friends with all the more social, showy members of the team who joined because they love public speaking and all that. Mary is quieter, more intellectual and into philosophical stuff, and is friends with the more intellectual wing of the debate team. So a joint ticket with them has a chance to get votes from both groups. The thing is, while I'm not friends with either of them, I know from casually talking to them that neither of them are really happy with the relationship, but don't want to break up because they will know it will affect their debate partnership. Mary kind of sees James as big mouth, small brain. James sees Mary as overly idealistic, antisocial, and at times boring. So I told each of them what the other thought of them. This caused an argument in the middle of the debate meeting, and they actually broke up then and there. James was legit crying and he blamed me for this. But everyone else seemed to agree that I was doing them a favor. They were incompatible but kept dating because of debate, and it made them unhappy. So who's right, James or everybody else, or am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole, OP. What was happening between Mary and James was none of your business. You only made it your business because you saw them as great competition and you thought you might have a better chance of winning if they weren't in the picture. I understand that they were miserable in their relationship and breaking up was the best thing for the both of them, but you shouldn't have pushed them to make that decision. The most you should have done if you actually wanted to help them was advise either or both of them, but that wasn't what you did. So you're the a-hole here. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. Holy shit, you're the a-hole. You purposely, publicly torpedoed them so you could win competition later. Not because you saw they were unhappy, not because one of them had done something the other should know. You sabotaged for your own gain. Not everything in life is competition. And I hope you have to take an ethics class before you get thrown into the rest of society. You're the a-hole. It's pretty obvious you're the a-hole because you didn't do this out of the goodness of your heart, and you know that. You knowingly and unnecessarily hurt 2 people, and what's worse is that you did it for personal gain. If you were sick of hearing their relationship BS, you could have established a firm boundary like no relationship talk during debate club or when they talked to you. Also, your replies to "you're the a-hole" judgment reads like a cringy pseudo-intellect who can't accept others' opinions. This isn't a place for debate. Accept your judgment. Stick to debating in your little club. You're the a-hole. good at politics, but doesn't understand anything about basic human interaction. To be more specific, you have no idea what people actually think. Even if someone told you something venting in confidence, that information is not any more true or important than what they tell their partner privately. People feel ambivalent about absolutely everything in their lives, including their relationships at times. It is not for you to decide that a few overheard or inferred, with your supposed gifts of insight, scraps are the truth. And to interfere with others' lives on this basis, you're kind of an insufferable prick. But maybe you will grow out of it quicker if you learn from this experience. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for pulling out of my sister's wedding due to her in-laws? For background, Stella and I are identical twins, 29 female, and we will both be 30 when her wedding comes around this fall. I had her as my maid of honor 8 years ago, and she promised me that I could be hers when her wedding came around. I have 2 kids, 6 female and 3 female. They are the flower girls. My marriage fell apart just over 2 years ago due to a stillbirth and my husband's infidelity. My parents and sister were the only reason I didn't drown from the stress, loneliness, and total abandonment of my spouse. I was a total mess. I went to therapy, got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, quit drinking, and I owe a lot of it to my amazing sister. She is the reason why I kept chasing down my ex for child support. When he stopped suddenly paying, he suddenly switched from world's best dad to deadbeat dumbass so quickly that my ex-mother-in-law is disgusted with him. Stella and John, 35 male, engaged last year. His parents are paying about 60% of the wedding. Our parents are paying 30%, Stella and John paying for the rest themselves. The biggest caveat is that they must be married in John's family's church, full mass with communion. The family is on board because this is going to be a very big wedding. Tonight, Stella had invited me to dinner, as they had finally reserved a date for the church and reception, assuming it was to formally ask me to be her maid of honor. I was excited since I haven't been in a wedding party aside from my own wedding. John was with her. Weird, because Stella didn't mention him coming at all in our texts about the dinner. We hugged like usual, but John didn't. Weirder. After we got our drinks, they got to it. In a nutshell, John expressed the following: despite my best efforts to keep it secret, my parents found out that you're divorced when they asked why your husband wasn't coming. They are no longer comfortable with you as maid of honor, because it won't look good to the church if my family hears about the divorce. You can be a bridesmaid, but can't mention the divorce or your conditions at all during the wedding events. I was stunned, and I felt tears in my eyes. Stella started crying too, and she tried to spin it in a good way. This is way less stressful for you, so it's a good thing. Mother-in-law has already approved my BFF as my maid of honor, so please don't make this any harder. I knew that I couldn't possibly stay there through an entire meal. I had to process this information alone. I didn't speak. I just paid for my wickedly expensive cocktail and left to order an Uber home. A few hours ago, I texted Stella that I would not be in her wedding party at all. That was my decision. I wouldn't pull my daughters out, but I would only attend as a guest. She wouldn't take this as an answer, so I had to temporarily block her due to her excessive texts and calls. I sent my parents a summary of what happened and promised to call them when I was in better shape tomorrow. Stella thinks that this is a total overreaction. I don't even want to know what John thinks at this point. Please help me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Thank you for all the responses. I half expected to be told to just put up with it and be a plain bridesmaid, which, while difficult, I kinda would have forced myself to make Stella happy. I was just so blindsided, and I feel like I've been gut punched. And I do need to be told if I'm overreacting in a big way sometimes. I'm going to fall asleep now while binging Friends and wonder if my twin has suddenly become an Ursula instead of Phoebe. I have a call scheduled with my parents this afternoon. From what I gathered, they are extremely upset with Stella and John at the moment. Depending on how that goes, I will talk to my girls about doing something big and fun instead. The more I think about it, sitting through a mass sounds less and less appealing. I'm not even religious. Now for some comments. That's awful and I'm so sorry. John's family doesn't have a single clue as to what it means to be a true Catholic either. There is absolutely no way they should be behaving like this. It's controlling. Your sister possibly appears to be coerced into this based on her future in-laws paying for the wedding. Before making this decision, I would be asking her if this is what she really wants, or if she's being forced into it. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Honestly, your sister needs you to pull out. This isn't just her in-laws, this is also her husband. She needs to realize that they are making completely unreasonable demands. Under no circumstances should they feel entitled to veto the bride's choice of maid of honor. It doesn't matter if they are footing 100% of the bill, it's not their place. Your sister would be better off with a small ceremony on her own terms than getting jerked around on her in-laws' whims. Hopefully, you pulling out will be the wake-up call she needs to stand up for herself. Not the a-hole. You have been judged not worthy by your sister's soon-to-be husband and in-laws, and so, in a sense, they are the ones making this decision for you. By the mere fact that you still want to attend as a guest shows that you are not making this decision lightly or out of spite. Best of luck to you, and I feel very sorry for your sister who is marrying an extremely judgmental fiancé with parents even worse. There are many Catholics that are not like this, and for those that are, it seems to be the exact opposite of what Jesus would have wanted.